everyone, I'm Thanishta and today I'm going to talk about astrology and psychology. So the two fields couldn't seem to be any more different. Psychology is based on research on the human mind, whereas astrology is based on some kind of mystical connection that we have with the stars. Psychology prides itself on being based on causality, whereas astrology is purely correlational. Anyway, the science is not what this video is about. Here, I'm just going to look at the arguments in the field so far and present you with my thoughts on how to better reconcile the two. Before we start, I would like to note that this video is in no way about the entirety of the fields of astrology or psychology, but only about the confluence between the two, which occurs when either of them attempt to explain personality. So after going through multiple papers, I began to see that there were quite a few relevant arguments made in the field of psychology against astrology. I found this amazing article, by the way, which you could be interested in if you want to know more. I've linked it in the description. The first of these arguments was the Barnum effect. According to Britannica, the Barnum or Forer effect is the phenomenon that occurs when individuals believe that personality descriptions apply specifically to them more so than to other people, despite the fact that the description is actually filled with information that applies to everyone. So this is referring to statements like, you probably feel insecure around strangers, you're probably having some kind of relationship problem with your family, or one of your grandparents probably passed away when you were a teenager. The argument is that these statements are so general and relatable that they could apply to anyone. But we feel like our relationship problems or our insecurity is bigger than everyone else's and therefore more real. But I want to ask, so what? If your problem is also a problem for a billion other people, that doesn't make it any less of a problem for you. I mean, you share 99.9% of your genetic makeup with every other human being on earth. But now just because you have insecurity like them, that's somehow an issue. Think about that. We'll circle back to it later. The second important point was that psychologists could find no link between people's sun sign and their personality that could not be explained by seasonal effects. Seasonal effects refer to the effect of someone's birth season on their personality. One good example of a seasonal effect is that people born towards the beginning of the year tend to be better at sports, most likely because they were more developed for most of their school life than the rest of their class, and therefore chosen more often to be part of sports teams, and hence they got more opportunities to practice and become better at sports. There definitely are seasonal effects, and I'm sure sun sign astrology is getting at little more than those effects. The real issue with these arguments is that they fall for the straw man fallacy big time. Both of these arguments are made against sun sign astrology, not against astrology as a whole. Sun sign astrology is just a version of pop astrology that was created for the media to sell more newspapers. It was meant to be reductive, relatable, and something that people would like because it was essentially a marketing tactic. Real astrology takes into account 9 planets, not just the sun, and it considers their zodiac sign placement, their house placement, their nakshatra placement, and a lot of other divisional charts to compose the unique story of an individual, such that even twins who are born within 5 or 10 minutes of each other will have a very different chart when you go into the divisions. 3 out of those 4 things are missing in this version of astrology. So yes, it is a straw man of astrology that they've created just to make it easier for them to destroy the argument on our side. So if sun sign astrology is not real, what part of astrology is? In 1979, a scientific study by Joaquin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, found some things that shocked scientists. Joaquin found that there was a statistically significant effect of the planets Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, and the Moon on people's professions. Just as in astrology, Mars created military officials and sports people, Jupiter created teachers and actors, Saturn created scientists, and Moon created writers. However, unlike in astrology, the effect wasn't seen in terms of zodiac signs or sky placements, but instead in terms of plus zones in the sky, which also correlates with the concept in astrology we like to call Digbala or directional strength, which means there's a certain direction for each planet that gives it strength, and those directions seem to correlate with the plus zones. Similar effects were also observed for people of eminence, people with fame, and the most surprising one for me was that children had a higher than random chance of sharing the same planet in the plus zone as a parent. But since scientists couldn't understand what was mediating this effect, they kind of just swept it under the rug like a Stanford prison experiment sized mistake. Maybe eventually we'll have the equipment to find out what mechanism it is with which the universe works on us. But I think I just need to say this. Astrology is not about science. It's not about science, it's an interpretive art. The conventional definition of science does not have room for something that can't be tested repeatedly in a controlled environment. And that is fundamentally opposed to the nature of personality. And that's fine. It's not a problem because most of the things that we talk about, think about, and believe in are not the subject matter of science either. Psychology works best when you want to understand the masses, when you want to understand how to sway the masses, how to influence people, how to understand the little biases that really unite all of us as a whole. But when it comes to describing your own personality, when it comes to gaining self-awareness, when it comes to gaining a level of individuation or self-fulfillment through your own uniqueness, psychology really falls short. The test creates a straw man of you and 1 in 16 other people that you come across. It's not you, it's a type that you could fit into. But it'll hardly help you individuate in the true sense of the word. In astrology, you have all the archetypes in your chart. Everyone does. The planets are exaggerating some archetypes by being in some signs, but they in no way are reducing you to a type, because they constantly aspect other placements, other planets, and they really mix with each other to form the unique individual that is you. And that's really how astrology is understood. It's not understood in terms of any one placement or any one planet. It's understood as a whole. Of course, for these tests that were standardized for psychology by Joaquin, they had to kind of cut all of that out, all of the complexity out, and just reduce it to, okay, these are the planets, and maybe these are the types of people that we can create from that. It was only when newspapers in the 90s began to popularize astrology in response to the popularizing of astronomy that sun sign typology became so popular and reduced you to a type. But really knowing astrology requires a deep dive into your chart, something that's very unfriendly to popular culture. Let me illustrate how astrology works as a tool for self-awareness using this beautiful Pixar film, Inside Out. If you've already seen it, then skip to the timestamp below. If you haven't seen it, here's a summary.
Riley is a happy, hockey-loving, 11-year-old Midwestern girl, but her world turns upside down when she and her parents move to San Francisco. Riley's emotions, led by joy, try to guide her through this difficult, life-changing event. However, the stress of the move brings sadness to the forefront. When joy and sadness are inadvertently swept into the far reaches of Riley's mind, the only emotions left in headquarters are anger, fear, and disgust.
The movie conceptualizes the mind in a certain way. It shows you that the primary actors or voices in your head are your emotions, and all of them are constantly at odds with each other to try to drive your behavior. Think of astrology similarly, except the planets are now the actors instead of the emotions. The planets themselves don't really matter, just as the characters in the film are just a metaphor for the mental or felt presence of these emotions. The planets represent certain human qualities that are common between all of us. So instead of just being human emotions, which they can be correlated to, they're instead considered in terms of groups of qualities. So for example, anger here can be correlated with Mars, in that both of them share the quality of anger, or that Mars is a metaphor for the quality of anger inside you. But why do we use this metaphor? Because that quality of anger doesn't work in isolation. It works together with your body systems and other mental systems that occupy that angry energy when you're not angry, which is most of the time, I hope. Mars is your drive, focus, passion, your lust, your greed, your hunger, and everything that makes you move from one place to another, everything that makes you grow, that causes change in your life, that causes a death and rebirth like experience where you feel like you've changed completely as a human being. You feel that because of Mars. And so it relates to a lot of bodily functions such as the blood in your body, the adrenaline production in your body, your body's heat and your body's ability to move fast. All of that is determined by your Mars placement. Do you see how all these things are related? They seem to be working together to create the same sort of symptoms in our body or in our mind, and they're the same symptoms that have been scientifically proven to be created when we see the color red, the color of Mars. Do you also see how much more complex astrology becomes then? Astrology, as understood by Jung as well, was a system of myths born from the collective unconscious that comprised of all of our collective experiences through the generations that have kind of defined the human experience. That's where the archetypal stories come from. That's where stereotypes derive from in the long run. But unlike stereotypes, these archetypes or these pictures that exist in the collective unconscious don't really require us to be a part of a certain culture to understand them. And that's what makes them so great to work with. Instead, astrology allows space within every archetype for interpretation. For instance, this is the Sagittarius symbol. This symbol of a centaur with a bow and arrow could be seen as a symbol of focus and vision, as an arrow would show. The same bow and arrow could also be interpreted as a sign of optimism, as a sign of a better future, or it could be viewed as a weapon, as a sign of impending war or impending doom. It's really anyone's choice. But when you know that you tend to get disheartened at the slightest of problems, then you can interpret Sagittarius in the way that is appropriate for you and make meaning out of that. And the meaning won't be externally driven. It'll be placed within you because you're the one projecting your unconscious onto it and creating meaning from just a random symbol that looks like this. The idea propagated by psychology as well is that we tend to project our unconscious mind onto ambiguous external cues to better understand them. So when you find something like Mars in all its ambiguity sitting in a certain place in your horoscope, you're going to be forced to project your unconscious mind onto it along with all the keywords that you might have learned and then make meaning out of it of your own volition. It's like the Rorschach ink blot test. In fact, every time you look at your chart, you'll find something new because it's just that ambiguous and there's just that many charts to go through. That's why it's important to do astrology yourself instead of looking to an astrologer. So even when I first started learning astrology, I realized that I couldn't let someone else define me if I didn't know my own definition of myself. Of course, that was silly because there's plenty of astrologers who are also against fear mongering and would probably use the right kind of language to really explain to you what every placement means. But I didn't know any of back then, and I'm grateful because I had to sift through a lot of information and learn everything myself, and that really gave me the power to understand where astrology is coming from, instead of seeing it as some kind of mystical force that is affecting me without my consent. In my chart explorations, I try my best to give you keywords and help you interpret the chart for yourself instead of me putting ideas in your head, because my life experiences bias me and I don't want those biases to unnecessarily seep into our relationship. And that's really what I want you to take away from this video, is that no matter what psychologists or astrologers are saying, and no matter what you think, you should be able to A, define yourself, and B, define yourself as a unique individual that has qualities that are strong and qualities that are weak, that are understood, that are different from other people. It's really important for you to explore and discover yourself. And if astrology is going to be that way for you, which it has been for me, I completely encourage you to go on this path and go on it with an open mind, such that you understand that you could come across any information, but what meaning you give to that information is really up to you. And I'm going to leave you with that today. I hope you liked my video. If you did, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. And I'll see you in the next one.